Hello. Welcome to the first episode of Bridging the Gap. My name is David James.
And my name is Colin McEvers. I'm involved with the Lower Shore Young Republicans. I'm currently the chairman of that organization. We've been able to expand it quite substantially. We've been able to do a lot of work in the community. I'm also the editor-in-chief of the Bury Post, and I'm very excited to be here.
All right, awesome. And again, I'm David James. I guess you could call me the creator of Bridging the Gap. We've been around for about 3 years. First started up about 3 years ago when there was a lot of people running for office, and we were concerned with what's going on with the west side of this county. And since then, well, we built up to this point. And also, I guess since Colin just said what he's affiliated with. Not only do I work with Bridging the Gap, but I'm also the president of Delmarva Conservative Movement, and just all around. I mean, just want to make sure things go well in this county.
Awesome, cool. Actually, one of the first things that I think that we should talk about on the show for Bridging the Gap, since you're the president of the Delmarva Conservative Movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a little bit about the organization, what it stands for, why it exists, and kind of what you guys do?
Okay, sure. Well, I've been with Delmarva Conservative Movement for a little over 3 years, and it's just a entity that are concerned with what's going on. I mean, there are definitely a bunch of conservatives that we believe in our conservative values. We are actually more vision-oriented and not party-driven, which means we have people from Democrats, the independents, we have a lot of Republicans, but like I said, we work together to make sure things happen the way they should. I mean, we get involved with either state. Actually, we get involved with national issues, state issues, and county issues on down to city. We're just concerned.
Awesome, cool. You know, I've been to a few of your meetings, and I just think it's really, really important that we, as young Republicans, as old Republicans, people that are middle-aged Republicans, whatever, all people that are conservatives, that are right-leaning, we need to work together. We need to make a collective effort towards making the community better, making it a better place. Are there any efforts that you guys are working on towards making sure that the Republican Party on the Lower Eastern Shore in Wicomico County is cohesive, that it's strong, that it's together, that we're together and we're working together towards achieving the same goals?
We're interested in the conservatives, okay? And again, yes, we are a majority Republican, and we're all about people working together. You know, one thing I've always learned is if we pray about those things, if we rejoice in those things that we all agree upon, rather be Republican, Democrat, or independent, whatever, and pray about those things that we don't, then things will actually work a lot better together. Now, I do have definitely for myself, I have a concern with how people don't work together for a common cause, such as term limits, which we'll probably cover. You know, that's something that is nonpartisan, not something that you have to be Republican or Democrat about. And sometimes people just don't get involved because they're like, well, that's their way and not my way. Yeah. And reality is that it's everybody's way. So
yeah, that's one of the main things with term limits, and that's one of the things that we're going to be working on with the college Republicans, the Lower Shore Young Republicans, is making sure that there are term limits in our county. At the national level, it's really difficult to get term limits, and that's mostly because Congress would have to pass like a 2/3 amendment in order to get it through. But at the county level, the people can sign a petition. It'll be like 12,000 signatures, right? 12,000 signatures. We can get it on the ballot so people can vote for it. And I definitely think that people will vote to put term limits on the county council. I think it's really important for young Republicans personally, but people that are a bit older, that are on the county council or in government for like decades and decades, they're going to have the financial resources, they're going to have interest groups supporting them, they're going to have name recognition, they're going to have all these immense benefits and advantages that someone that's young, that wants to get involved, that wants to run for county council won't have. So that's definitely one of the things that we're going to be helping out with the Lower Shore Young Republicans for sure.
I do want to make sure we understand that we're trying to get term limits in Wicomico County, not just for county council, it'll also be for the executive's office. If anybody has noticed some of the interviews I've done here lately, I did one with the county executive maybe about 2 weeks ago, and one thing she definitely wanted us to understand is this is not a us versus them. This is something that we need to have nationwide, truthfully. I mean, not picking at anybody, but I'm starting to see there's people in Congress that are on walkers. And again, I'm not saying that you can't be on a walker and serve, but when you've been in Congress longer as there's been a Congress, That can sometimes be an issue.
How did the issue of like term limits come up in Wycomico County? How did that
Sure,
like first start up? Because I've heard about it, but I don't know how it like originally came up.
Sure. Well, again, when Bridging the Gap first got started, we were doing some town halls in the Tyaskin and the Bival area, and some of the people down there made some comments. We would bring some of the people who are running for office or maybe already in office down there, and one of the comments was made was, look, you've been in office for almost 20 years. You're part of the problem. Not saying that anybody's part of the problem, but a lot of people are just getting sick and tired of seeing the same people in there and the issues not being resolved. Now, of course, we've heard of the, if you're in there too long, the good old boy system starts to kick in where, I believe that somebody can go in there honorable, and then after a while, because people just keep, I can't think of a better word than nagging, but keeps nagging them, and that they end up just doing favors. And not saying that if we have that now, if we have term limits, people stay more honest. People will know that that limited time that they're in there, they need to be making a difference instead of saying, I've got forever. Because one thing I have seen is when you're an incumbent, it's hard to beat you.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, people that are incumbents are much more likely to win an election than someone that's new to the area, that might be involved in the community, that might be doing a lot of things, but they're not an incumbent, and they're going against someone who's been there for 20 years. So they're gonna lose. What I find funny actually with the county council is that I know back last year they voted to get that Question A issue on the ballot, but when it came to putting their own term limits on the ballot, they decided not to vote for that. I don't know what the vote was for that particular issue, but do you know how many yeses and how many nos it got when they tried to put it on the ballot, term limits? Because I believe
as far as term limits, I don't know. I do know when it came to the Question A, it was a 5-2 vote. Where Councilman James Nguyen and Councilman Josh Hastings wanted to keep the executive form of government. Now, I have heard that this did get presented as far as term limits to the council, and they didn't have enough votes to put it on the ballot. But that's okay. That's where we have the voice. That's where we have the opportunity, as we did with Question A, to make a difference. And the way that we have to do it now is to actually go out there and get 12,000 signatures. Now, that sounds difficult to some people, but if you really believe in something, there is no obstacle that's too big. So if we want to see a difference, if we want to be part of the change, then we can get it done. And I can tell you, I've talked to people from all walks of life, and whether they're affiliated with parties or they're just talking, and it seems like that's a very popular thing is term limits. Everybody's like, absolutely, for many different reasons. Some reasons I may agree upon, some I don't, but they do want to see term limits.
And that's national, yeah. It's a national thing. A lot of people want term limits. I mean, like you said, we see these people in Congress that are just so old that, and sometimes it affects how they're able to operate in Congress. I mean, some people are old, but they're sharp as a tack. But then you have people like Joe Biden, for instance. I mean, he was 83 or 81. I don't know how old he was, but he was really old, and it was affecting his judgment. And that's what happens when you don't have term limits, is you have people that can be up and running for office, being in office until they're like 90 years old or older.
And one thing I also want to put out there is it's not just the age. Okay, there are those that are getting into politics early in life, and they say, hey, this is a career for me. I don't believe an elected term should be a career for anybody. This is not a career, okay? If you're going to make a change, you need to get in there, get it done, and get out the way. That's how I feel. I mean, I can, let's say from the Maryland governor standpoint, Governor Hogan served 2 terms.
Yeah.
But I guess according to the way Maryland does our term limits for the governor, he took 1 term off or whatever from being governor, but I think he's going to be running again.
Yeah, he probably will. It's possible that he'll run in 2026, which would be, but like you're saying, that he couldn't run for 3 consecutive terms. He had to take off a little bit. He has to become a private citizen. So it's not just a person that's in public life for 50 years without actually interacting with other people and being an actual American citizen. And about getting 12,000 signatures, yeah, it's really difficult. I actually worked for the Kennedy campaign about a year ago, and it was really difficult to get ballot access for Kennedy because we needed like 18,000 signatures.
Wow.
It was a lot, and a lot of them are invalidated because some people sign it and they're not registered voters, but it can be done with collective willpower, with collective effort. Like you're saying, there's no obstacle that can't be done if people are willing to actually make a change in their community, and that goes for term limits. And by next year, I'm very confident that it will be an issue on the ballot and that will succeed for sure.
Absolutely. And again, there are many different ways of getting the word out. But I think the most important way is what we're doing right now. Let's just sit down and let's talk about it, see what we think about things. Again, there's many different issues that I've seen since I've been involved with politics the last 3 years. I mean, just being the person that's not running for office, but actually being in it, you see a lot. You know, there's issues that I've seen that's been at the council for years, like DAF tanks. There's been no change. So maybe with a new slate of people on council, we can get this done. And when they're elected, they understand that, you know, we got you there for this limited time to get something done.
And that's the thing with change. It's difficult to actually get things done in the community because a lot of people just want to keep the status quo. They want to keep things how they are. I've actually experienced that at Salisbury University. Our administration, I will say, is very left-leaning, very liberal. And the student government is like that too, the campus community. So it's difficult. When someone goes in, I actually ran for vice president. I remember talking to you about it, and you saw my Facebook post about it, but there was just so much slander, there was so much smearing. People will attack you simply because you're a Republican and make up things about you. And there was no one else that was running that was conservative as well. So it was difficult. I lost the election, unfortunately, but, you know, things happen. But one of the things is that I learned is it's just so hard to get things done, to make change. And you have to be bold, you have to be direct, you have to be a little bit aggressive. I went into the SGA Senate meeting yesterday, actually, and so I was reading out this pepper spray ban bill. Currently, pepper spray is banned on the Salisbury University campus, which is just so stupid. It's disgraceful because it's a dangerous area. People should always have the right to defend themselves. That's a fundamental right, self-defense. So I read out the bill. I actually took the opportunity, speaking to the SGA, to kind of call them out for their political bias. And I'll say that was fun. It was fun to actually speak to them directly and say, you guys are making politically biased decisions, because I was also kicked out of SGA from being a senator. And that's a large part because you're a Republican. When people know that you're conservative, when you're outwardly conservative, people will come after you. They will reject you from being in things. They will kick you out. It's just really, really difficult, especially at institutions like Salisbury University that are pretty left-leaning. And that's where young Republicans have to come in and make that difference and make that change and get involved in politics.
If we don't stand for something, we'll fall for anything. And that's whoever you are, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or whatever. Again, I am Republican, for those who didn't know, but at the same time, I've got friends that are Democrat that stand for the right things. You know, I think that a lot of times the reason why we don't get things done is because we get so caught up in the fact that, hey, this person's Democrat or this person, what's right? You know, with bridging the gap, that's exactly what we want to do. We want to bridge the gap, get away from all of the things that we see, all of the hate that we see in media. We want to work together for a common cause, you know. Over at the college, I definitely, you know, I used to do a lot of Bible studies over at the college, and I got to say one good thing I got to say about SU is Campus Crusade for Christ is a great place to meet people who are like-minded.
Crew, right? Crew.
Yeah,
it's a crew organization. Yeah.
Yep. And, you know, just knowing that there's people like you, Colin, that are out there that's ready to stand up. You're right. The people do need to be able to defend themselves. And I don't know if there's been some people who have maybe used pepper spray the wrong way. If they have, shame on them. But when you have someone that's walking in a not-so-lit area, which the camp has done a great job of lighting up a lot of the areas, but there are still some.
Yeah, they've done good with funding their resources into providing a safer environment and getting the police out there and things of that sort. But the main point with the pepper spray thing is just people should have the right to defend themselves with an adequate tool, a non-lethal weapon. I actually got pepper spray myself for the bit to show that Yes, it's really, really painful. It really sucks, but it actually works and it's effective. And we were able to get media publicity with that. We got WBOC to cover it. We got the Salisbury Independent. Thank you, Salisbury Independent, if you're watching this. Thank you very much for covering it, because now people are starting to see this issue. And when it's seen, then the administration will actually, feel like they have to make a change. They may have to make a difference. With the student government right now, what I think is that they're too intertwined with the administration, that they're not willing to go out and get media attention and cause some PR difficulties and cause a little bit of PR pain to the Salisbury University administration. Now that's where the college Republicans comes in.
Okay.
That's where the Lower Shore Young Republicans comes in.
Sure.
We actually have the ability, we're not as intertwined with the administration, so we can focus on issues that are actually prevailing at Salisbury University, legitimate problems, legitimate issues, work with people like yourself, people that aren't young Republicans, people that have been in the game for a little bit longer, so we can get your advice, so we can learn how to actually do things effectively, strategically. One of the issues we're currently working on now is it's End Waste of Student Fees campaign is what we're trying to call it. So there are these big 6 organizations on campus. A lot of them actually provide an incredible service to the community. Like Safe Ride actually helps ensure that people are not drinking and driving.
Sure.
So it goes and picks up people from parties, brings them back to campus. There's this club called the WXSU, the radio station, that actually goes to events and plays music and has equipment and is providing an actual service. But then we have this problem where there are these 2 newspapers on campus. One of them is called The Flyer and another one is called The Bury Post.
Okay.
Now The Flyer has Big 6 organization status, and it gets like $20,000 or so per year from student fees. So students have to pay an activity fee to come to Salisbury University, and that goes to funding these Big 6 organizations. Now, a lot of those organizations provide an actual service, but then there are others that, so the Bury Post and the Flyer produce the exact same thing. Student media coverage, consistent postings, things of that sort. The Bury Post actually also does print, print publication too. We've done 2 this year. Now the difference is that the Bury Post works on a budget of $0, and the Flyer works on a budget of $20,000 or more from student fees, so like student taxes basically, which I think is just totally unfair. Not only for members of the Bury Post who were publishing these articles and doing this work for free, but also for parents and students who have to pay this bunch of money to come to Salisbury University, and that's going towards organizations that don't need the money. So it's being wasted. The money's being wasted, and the fact of the matter is, in the past, the Flyer has published a bunch of far left woke articles, just total garbage, things about abolishing the police with like a police car that was on fire, demeaning white women just because they voted for Trump, charging the university with promoting eugenics just because they ended their mask mandate policy, just total stupid stuff. But then when people try to write conservative articles or right-leaning articles, they deny those pieces because they don't align with the opinions of the editorial board. So it's like there's censorship, there's not freedom of press, and the students and the parents are paying for that, which is just so stupid. It's so silly. That's one of the main things that we're going to be working on with the college Republicans now, because we've done a lot with the pepper spray ban. I think it's going to be ended with the work that we've done, which I think is a huge accomplishment for us.
Right.
But now we need to work on making sure that student fees and student taxes basically aren't being wasted on organizations that don't need the money. So I think that's a very conservative position, and we're going to make sure we do everything to encourage the administration not to reallocate those fees, because it's an absolute disgrace for the students and the parents that are paying for an education.
Who's the Big 6?
Big 6, it's WXSU. It's this organizations on campus that get allocation of funds from, well, a lot of them are service-based. So they're providing an actual service to the community, like Safe Ride. It picks up students. They actually provide a service. WXSU, they play music at events. They are actually doing something for the community. But then you have organizations that aren't providing an actual service, that aren't providing a unique and legitimate service to the community. So if there are 2 organizations that are doing the same thing, they should be operating on an equal budget. One shouldn't get $0 and one shouldn't get $20,000. That's just not right. It's a conservative kind of position for sure. It's definitely a right-leaning position because we want to make sure that the fees that students are being, the fines that students are getting aren't being wasted. So that's the main thing.
So what was the reasoning? Because you're the president of the Lower Shore. Right.
Yep, I'm the president of the Lower Shore.
All right. Have you spoken to those and asked why one organization gets it and the other one doesn't?
Oh yeah, we've been asking. We haven't necessarily gotten too much of a great response. Some people in the past have said, oh, it's because they're more official, they are more practicing journalistic ethics, blah, 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 things like that, which is totally false. Now, I am going to be bringing this issue up at the SGA Forum, the Student Government Forum on Sunday. So I'm going to be asking them directly, why is it that this organization is going to be reallocated possibly many thousands of dollars again when another organization has absolutely proven that it can be done without any money at all? We're going to be asking that on Sunday. We're going to see what response they have. If they have a legitimate response, we're going to end our campaign. If they say we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again, we're going to say, okay, well, we're not going to do anything further. But if they do not give us a legitimate response, we're going to say, okay, we're going to get the media involved. We're going to reach out to the SU alumni. We're going to get all these different external factors to try and make a difference. Because really, when you want to make change, you have to, turn up the temperature a little bit.
So what else on the campus is the Lower Shore Young Republicans getting involved with?
So one of the main things we are trying to do is basically establishing a fleet of volunteers and young Republicans who are going to be able to be deployed out to knock on doors for candidates to win elections, basically. Like, for example, the 2026 midterm election is coming up, which is going to be really important. It might be a tough year for us, but we need to make sure we get every single vote we possibly can. Local, statewide, whatever it might be. I'm going to see if I can reach out to Delegate Barry Beecham and see if I can work for his campaign.
Good friend of mine.
He's an awesome guy, and
he's a great guy.
He's tall too. He's like 6'3" or something.
He's up
there with us. He's up there with us.
Yeah, the Tall People Society. By the way, I just want to back up and say this. I heard him say the younger ones. I'm 21 at heart.
I said
then times that by 2, and that's more years from my age.
I found out this guy was a grandfather today, and I said, "Hey, this guy he doesn't look a day over 30." And I was like, "You're a grandfather? What the hell?" He paid me to say that. No, just
Yep. So thank you for that. Now, going and talking about the midterm elections coming up, how much involvement would the young Republicans have with candidates here locally, like maybe for council or executive or any of that?
Oh, a lot, definitely a lot. So we're expanding. It was last year, the Lower Shore Young Republicans weren't really doing too much. We didn't even have a group chat. It wasn't under good leadership last year. Now we have a group chat. We have consistent Instagram and social media posts. We have newsletters going out on a bi-weekly basis. We're having meetings. We're expanding the organization, and we're getting more people to join so we can actually have a legitimate impact in the community. We're going to do some community service events. We're going to try and get into touch with these people that are doing some trash cleanups too.
Sure.
But when it comes to the midterms, that's going to be really important because we want to have about 15 members of the Lower Shore Young Republicans who we're able to call up and say, hey, we're going to be doing a door-knocking campaign. We're going to be going out for Delegate Beecham, knocking on a bunch of doors, and getting people to vote for him, whether it be Delegate Beecham or, if you want to run for county council or whatever. I mean, hey, we'll work for you too. We'll work for anyone that's a Republican and that actually is in alignment with our values as conservatives, as right-wing people that we are.
I always like to tell people ask me, are you going to run for office? I said, well, instead of running from officers, that sounds like a better idea, but I don't know about running for office or anything. And we definitely want to get behind those that have community in mind. One thing I can say that's came out from as far as what you're doing over there at the campus is the fact that we're sitting right here, and I'm glad I did get to meet you, and we're going to be doing a lot of work together here.
For sure. We need more conservative media.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we need to make sure that truth gets out.
Exactly.
It seems in a world that is so easy to just turn on a camera and say whatever. So many people are misled from that lack of knowledge or that misinformation. So you'll be seeing, as we go forward with Bridging the Gap here on PAC 14, that we will be talking to a lot of different people. Like I said, elected, non-elected, clergy. We want to, and of course, over at the campus.
A lot of guests. We're going to be bringing in a lot of guests to tell us about their perspectives, their point of views, what they're doing in the community. It's going to be really, really awesome.
Absolutely.
And so I'm glad that I found out because Bridging the Gap is an awesome name too. We can say bridging the generational gap, bridging the political gap, bridging the community. Because right now, a lot of people in the community, like you were saying, don't know what the government is doing.
They don't know.
They don't know what the local government is doing, and that's what we need to fix.
And a lot of time people will shy away from things they don't understand. And what we want to do is get people way of getting right information. It's all about getting the information out. Before you go out there and you make a vote, you need to understand everything about that person.
Exactly.
And again, I mean, and yes, I'm great that it's great that he does make sure that we elect Republicans, and I want to make sure we elect good Republicans. However, we have to make sure that that person is actually standing up for conservative views, because anybody during campaign season, anybody during a political season, any politician can turn into just that, a politician. So when you put the spotlight on them, I mean, for lack of better terms, people have to not only say things, but they have to be held accountable.
For sure.
So that's one thing you're going to be seeing with Bridging the Gap. There's going to be many different segments. I was just talking to Colin, because there's the views that you probably just heard in our first setup here. There's going to be views from the college. There's going to be views from the county. There's going to be views from the city.
The information needs to be accurate. It needs to be factual. And then it also needs to be promoted in a way where a lot of people will be able to see it, so that we can have a lot of viewers and we can make that impact, so that people do know what's happening in the community. Because when you see some videos, the problem might be that it's a really awesome message and it's a really awesome thing, and then the difficulty is getting it out to a broad audience and making sure. And that's one of the things that we're going to do too, is make sure that we reach as broad an audience as possible in this area.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm excited. I think this was a great first episode.
Yes.
This has been Colin McEvers, the co-founder of the Bridging the Gap on PAC 14.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for watching.
Next level we're about to enter. And I'm David James, the founder or co-founder of Bridging the Gap on PAC 14, the founder of Bridging the Gap as an entity, and your fellow citizen here. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Have a great one.